Hello, everybody. We have Montez today here, and unique experience for me. So, Montez, what was your business idea, and how does it change the world?
Good evening, Robert. Good evening, everyone watching. Thank you for having me. Uh, I wouldn't say how much of an idea it is. Obviously, people can understand it in their own way, but what I would like to see at least is to if they bring back what is effectively the sport back into sport. As I think, at least in recent times, I'm not sure if it's just as I get older now. I start to see a little bit more some of the downside to sport. Obviously, when you're a kid, everything's so magical to you. And I've spent a lot of years in sport at all levels, but I've seen a lot of professional levels, and I would like to see kind of the magic brought back into it, not sort of, in other words, the business side of tennis. I have a few ideas about how it could be brought back into it. And obviously, I think we're here to kind of discuss that a little bit today as well. And other people watching will have their own ideas and hopefully make some comments on it as well.
Excellent. So, just a clarification for the public, you are a tennis coach and also an agent. What does this that mean for the players you're working with?
Uh, Hopefully, it will help for tennis to go back a little bit. Like, obviously, I used the phrase when I was a kid, but this was 20 years ago, and tennis was very different. Obviously, when I was when I was a kid, it was not uncommon to just hang around the tennis club all day looking for things to do, even if it wasn't on the tennis court. We were involved in tennis. Off the tennis court, we were watching, we were learning, we were there. I would like to see that the youth now they have more. Obviously, when I was younger, I'm still the generation before the mobile phones.
Yeah.
So we didn't know to watch the highlights on the YouTube. We watched tennis and we went out of our way to watch tennis whenever there was a local match or to watch a local tournament. Even if, and when the professionals came to our town, we always went to and watch it. Now with the kids, they have it on their phone in front of them. I think it's kind of it takes away a little bit the value of being involved in the world of tennis, and maybe it will be difficult at the beginning. It will be like a new thing going back to the old thing, and it will be different. It will be some people won't agree with it, but I would like to see in time that tennis become more about feelings, more about the values, more about these sort of things which define a person rather than business and technology.
Great, but I think that professional tennis also adds something to the popularity of it, and especially people like Novak Djokovic and people like him who promote it and who inspire us with their achievements. They add something to this, though it is a game for them, but it is also a job and totally professional career.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Obviously, in recent years, we've seen, unfortunately, Novak Djokovic, he for standing up for his beliefs. We've seen him on the technology used against him for standing up for his beliefs, and that's something maybe Roger Federer, for example, who was the generation before. And I remember in 2004, 2005, there was no phones in the hands, and we saw with our own eyes, even if it was through the television. We didn't get to watch the highlights on the phone every 2 minutes whenever we wanted to. We saw the magic happen, and that's what made it more magical for us to be able to follow it. These
Mhm.
days, when everyone has the phone in their hands and everyone has the opinion, it becomes a little bit more about if we can talk whose opinion you agree with, if you can talk in the comments or not. And this way it can reach a point where it kind of tarnishes a good legacy from someone who at absolute least, is trying to help tennis progress and trying to help his fellow competitors. It would be easy for, you say Novak Djokovic, it would be easy for him to say, look, I've done everything for tennis. I've done everything he needed to do. Why should he help others? The fact that he's still playing tennis and he's still trying to help others shows that his dedication to tennis, not just sport, is incredible. And I'm sure that will continue much past when he retires. Does he deserve to be hated for it? Probably not. Does we should all respect the attempt and the kind of person and athlete that he is? Definitely. But again, when you have the phone in the hand, it's much easier to not like it, and that gets clicks, that gets more likes, it gets more views on the profile. If you can write as many misleading clickbait highlights on a website as you want to get people to read.
Yeah.
And this distortions the image of him, and to the young kids, it's less about the tennis, it's more about the business side of it.
Agree, absolutely. And I also think that there's one thing that shows a different, a wrong perspective, because people, kids just see the highlights. They don't see the complete match, and they don't see how long does it take to score that point, and another and another and another. And when we were young, we were looking for that for hours, because that's how long it takes. But they see that for 5 minutes, and they see the highlights and make the opinion upon that. And that's also, I think, something that's not good for the play and for the perspective.
Definitely, it's one thing you see a little bit more now with the younger kids, is the details and the attention to these details. They have kind of, again, I speak like I'm old. I'm not old, but they have a kind of a shorter attention span. They're used to being able to see these things on the phone, in the pocket all the time. Whereas when we were kids, these were things we had to see more, and we had to really understand. And it was, for us, it helped motivate us. It helped to create that magic that we've gone on our whole lives to dedicate to a profession and to a sport. But now it's when things are kind of that easy, it's easy to kind of leave it to one side or expect more from that thing, which will take time, will take effort, will take years maybe. But if you have options in your hand, like on the phone, it's easy to just click to the next one, or cancel this, I'm going to do something else. With that.
So, but let's get back to your profession, to what you do, to the coaching, to the this agent story. How could you help me if, for instance, I don't know, 10 years old, 12 years, 20 years old, 30 years old? How would you help me to get into this world of tennis if I don't know anything about it?
Oh, that's fantastic, because if you don't know, what I think is, if you don't know much about tennis, everything's new to you. That's one of the things about tennis, is at the beginning it's difficult. I think it's much easier to start as an adult, I feel, because you're able to understand these feelings. Obviously, though, as an adult, you sacrifice your time, you sacrifice your energy, your money. So you want quicker results, and it's easier to become frustrated. When you're a child, even if you make the mistakes, you just brush it off and you continue. But I think, especially as older, and now it's happening a little bit in younger as well, it's difficult to find kind of the right setup for you. I mean, even here in Spain, where tennis is everywhere, especially where I live on the East Coast, every town has 2 tennis clubs or 2 tennis academies. There's still players who find it difficult to find the right time, to find the right place, to find the right environment, the right atmosphere. That'll be a little bit where I could come in. Obviously, I talk about Barcelona because I know it very well. I have contacts there since a long time. I would be able to help. In this case, if you would say, look, I'm moving to Barcelona, but I'd like to start tennis. I'm not sure really where to begin. Then I would be able to give you sort of a list of, you can try this place with this coach, and I'll send a message ahead and tell him a little bit what you need, and he'll tell you when is maybe the right session to come and trial, and he can sit down with you. I understand it in a big sport complex, you might not be able to find that. You might come along to a session and you might do the session and leave, and just whether it's that day or in general, the coach has to move on to the next session. You don't quite get that talk, that feeling, that communication of, look, we have this 8 players in this group, and normally 6 players come, and we speak in this language, and that really helps you to integrate and to feel involved in tennis. And again, for adults, we understand that a little bit more, that it's going to take time. But if especially as a child, it's easy for them to kind of stay with the kids they know, and maybe your child gets a little bit left to one side, and then this will impact a little bit their first impression of tennis and how they feel. So in that case, if you're starting from nothing, I think it's easier to talk to people and try and get the feedback and opinions, and get a little bit of a closer connection with a coach or with a director or center. And this way, it really gives you a bigger picture of what you might be looking for, when you might be able to find it, rather than going to each place individually, trying to see where my son or daughter might fit into the structure, if they'll stay there for a long time, because this is going to take 6 months, a year minimum, sort of, to understand if they really fit into the group. And if they then don't fit into the group, then you change a little bit to another sport. It's great. We have the culture here in Spain of playing lots of sport, but I think tennis is definitely one. If you're going to dedicate and commit to it, you've really got to dedicate and commit to it for kind of a long time before you start to see the progression. The first sort of 6 months are very complicated. If you especially as a child, could fit into a place where you fit in well, and people help you, and you make friends off the tennis court as well, then that's absolutely perfect. That's probably the most important thing, especially at that age.
How old is the youngest that you still recommend to start?
Yeah, everyone will. There are lots of programs, especially sort of in the UK, for example, where I come from. There's lots of great programs for sort of children who are 4 or 5 years old, and they're learning skills that you need in life as well. So improving your motor skills as well, your coordination, and also your social skills. So learning to make friends with other people. So I'd say 4 or 5 is likely to be the youngest age. Obviously, though, in this world of professional competitive tennis, where at 10 years old you have to be top level international best in the world at 10 years old, a lot of parents will imagine that starting at 5 years old is way too late. So
Interesting.
I can offer my opinion, what I think is good, but I think it does depend entirely on what your objectives are. And also some kids are just more able than others. I mean, if your child is his parents are athletes, it's likely that they might have a bit more of an athletical sort of understanding. They might have gone to certain sports before and tried and played with a ball, or played with a racket, or played with this, than maybe a family who's less involved in sport. Also depends on the size of your family as well. All of these things they come together, so it would be very difficult to give a precise, absolute answer. But I would say sort of about 4 or 5 years old is maybe a good place to start. But with small amounts, enjoy the tennis, have lots of fun. Then maybe in 2 or 3 years' time, suddenly the child is not enjoying tennis anymore, and they've spent too long already, and you know,
It's counterproductive. Is it,
yes,
is it possible to be a good professional if you start at 15, for instance?
it is. There are stories. So in tennis, for example, Leighton Hewitt is one of them.
Hmm.
Other stories are maybe like Rafa Nadal didn't play junior tournaments; he went straight to play adult tournaments at a young age.
Hmm.
So it definitely is possible. Again, that's another thing which I think that the business of tennis is there a point in playing junior? Is there a point in playing under 18? If when you reach 18 years old, you don't get the ranking to change to the adult. When you reach 18 years old, all of the work you have done at under 18s, as fantastic as it may be, it doesn't guarantee you success in the adult world.
Yeah.
So it definitely is possible. It would definitely be difficult, but it's even in America, for example, in US college, that's seen as a bit of a pathway towards professional, and you might not have played professionally as a junior. You've gone to college in America and then picked it up after college in America. So it's and there's no absolute definitive answer. But what is becoming more and more likely is that parents of children are seeing this as this is the way it needs to be. My son or daughter has to play tennis from 2 years old. They have to be champion under 10 of the world.
Hmm.
And then by 15 years old, they have to be, on the television. And if at 18 years old, they are not the biggest name in the world, Rafa Nadal, then they don't have a future in this sport. And that's unfortunate mentality. It really, if you go into something with like a permanent timeline of this XYZ needs to be done by this, I think it takes away a lot of the fun for the player. It takes away a lot of the fun for the parents, and also it takes away a lot of fun for all the people on the way. So the coaches, the tournament directors,
Okay. So you mentioned the colleges in US, and you are also preparing people to go there and to thrive there and to get a scholarship and things like that. Is that correct?
yes,
So how does that work?
it's how do I explain it? So obviously, especially in the academies, the academies have a very good link up to study in the United States.
Mhm.
I think it's a fantastic experience to be able to go to play tennis while you study.
Mhm.
So obviously, they're in places like Spain. We have inter university tennis, but it's not quite as big as America.
Mhm.
It's in Britain, in England, also they have the same sort of setup where they play inter university sports. It's fantastic. It keeps the athletes, keeps the people as well studying and able to continue with their sport, but it's not on the scale like America. And there's a lot of demand. A lot of players want to go to America to study. They want to be able to go for a few years and to test out their English, to play Division 1, Division 2, Division 3. So, but a lot of the players wouldn't really know how to start, where to begin with this. Obviously,
Mhm.
it's a completely different world over there. The American universities, US college can take their pick of the best players. And well, my job is to help to negotiate with them, to help to kind of broker them a place to study what they wish to,
Mhm.
and also to play tennis while they study.
Excellent. I think we all connect tennis with or see tennis as a pretty expensive sport. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
It's again, it's a little bit of a shame. In Spain, for example, a big thing is now paddle. In America, pickleball, I think, is getting quite big, and these are sports where sort of individual play is, is much less. It's always you play in pairs and you play against two more pairs, and immediately I think you use less sort of balls. The court is much cheaper.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's just at a sort of an equipment level. I'm not sure how much a pickleball bat costs, but I imagine it's less than the tennis racket.
Hmm.
So even that's before you've even stepped kind of onto the court.
Hmm.
The thing about here in Spain is that most people have had some sort of introduction to tennis, and whether it's at a young age, so they kind of take a little bit the fundamentals from tennis and apply it to paddle.
Hmm.
So they can at least sort of play a friendly game with their friends, and at the end of the day, we're all friends, and we go and have a bit of a coffee afterwards, and next week we'll play with different teams. In tennis, it's a little bit more complicated than that. Obviously, you spend a lot of money before you even start. You spend a lot of money on your lessons. Then you expect a result, and if you don't get the result, you want more lessons or you want to improve more. So that's just on a social level. It's very expensive, just as kind of a social hobby. It's very frustrating game tennis. It's very complicated to do even small things sometimes, and it's easy sometimes to take kind of one step forward and two steps back.
Hmm.
Then obviously, I think about kind of how much money my own parents have invested. I'm the youngest of four children, and we were all involved in tennis most of our childhood. So up until sort of we reached an age in school where we had my older brothers and sisters dedicated more to studying. I think about how much money they have invested in tennis over the years, and then I think about how much money some of the players I have, how much money that their parents invest, and not just money. Obviously, there's time, there's effort. They have to maneuver everything about their lives for this,
Hmm.
and you obviously understand why they look for ways to maybe travel with their children by themselves, because that way they can cut the cost of paying for the coach.
Hmm.
Obviously, if it fits into their working schedule, then that's brilliant for them. They can cut down costs of flying. They can maybe drive. They can cut down costs of hotel rooms. But definitely, let's say, and if something is not done there's a lot more investment recently from the governments, the governing bodies, to help. I think there's a lot less now than there was again when I was young.
Hmm.
When I was young, it was not done sort of internationally. It was if you got sponsored or got funded by someone, it was someone locally. It was the parents of a friend who had a business who wanted to invest in his own son or daughter, and you were kind of involved in it.
Hmm.
So there's a lot more investment in tennis now, but unless something is done to help take the price down, it's possible that we will be losing lots of tennis players to some of the cheaper and maybe easier sports in paddle or
Hmm.
pickleball.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. But you said if you go to the college, especially in America, and if you're good, you can make it real cheap by gaining scholarships and things like that.
Yep, that's how it works, and that's mostly what the players look for to go to American college.
Hmm.
And um, obviously, the top level juniors. So I'm talking of top under 18 players in the world. That's something they choose to do because they know they'll get everything paid for free.
Hmm.
And even some of the higher level universities, or colleges, they are allowed to make a little bit easier the schedule. So they can play tournaments, they can travel at the same time, they can do some work online. And that allows them to continue to play tennis while studying and kind of do tennis primary and studying secondly. And then you have other players as well who look to do the whole university experience, and then they look for as much of a scholarship as possible to lower the fees of training, of school, housing, travel, visas. That's just saying those five things. You can imagine how much that money that starts to sum up. You know? And it's a difficult one. It's difficult, especially as a coach or as a person, just to when you get a player or one of your clients and they come with you and they say, I would like to do this. I would like to think about studying in college in the US. The first thing you don't want to say is, I've known you for a few years, and I know maybe your financial situation hasn't been great during these years. I've seen you miss tournaments. I've seen you not be able to travel to tournaments because the finance hasn't allowed. You don't want to say to them, this is going to be a lot of money, which maybe you're not going to be able to reach to. So in that moment, it's a very complicated conversation to have. You don't want to dismotivate anyone. You don't want to take away their ideas and the dreams. You want to help them reach. But also, if there's not money there, there's no money there, and it's difficult to reach this. At the end of the day, education is a business as well. Yes. So.
Okay, how good you should be to be able to live from the tennis as a professional player?
To live only off tennis, specifically from tennis, so no endorsements, no advertising, no promotion, no sponsorship. I'd say maybe top 50 in the world. So that's singles. So top 50 in the men, top 50 women, maybe top 20 in doubles. It depends on your lifestyle. Obviously, if you travel a private jet to everywhere, then you're going to run out of money really quickly. But obviously, as an international professional athlete, you can't travel in economy either. So. If it means you have to get up at 4 a.m. to get on the 6 a.m. flight, and you have to get to the airport early so nobody sees you. But I think there was an interview with Novak a few years ago where he kind of ran through and he said, of the top 100 players, only 50 can make a living. This was when he started. His own association. Him and a player from Canada called Pospisil. They started their own organization. And he started talking about getting more money invested into tennis because only the top 50 can make money specifically from that. I think further down, so 50 to maybe 100, 150, they make more money from their sponsorships. Obviously, there's more sponsorships, I think, involved in male tennis. Maybe it's to do with the shirts they wear, which gives more space for this, or maybe it's because for whatever reason. And also it depends on what tournaments you're playing. So if you're, let's say, 120 in the world, but you're looking to play tournaments which will be on the television, then you're going to get more sponsorship. Also, if you're from a place where there's more investment into professional athletes and they take more interest in this. If you're from a small town in a smaller country, and when you play, it's unlikely to be on the television and less people know your name, then I think you'd find it very difficult to make a living from it. But the real number of players who make a decent living from playing tennis professionally, I would say, is a lot lower than anyone would initially think. I think if you are someone who doesn't know much about tennis, I'm sure they'll say everyone professional makes enough money to live comfortably, and they get to go on the private jet. And
Mhm.
but no, you could be 150 in the world, which is an incredible feat,
Mhm.
and you're struggling to make money. There was an interview here from a player who's very local to me. I've known him since we were boys together,
Mhm.
and he was speaking a little bit about how that happened to him. How his parents were looking to get a loan so he could continue to play, and he was 120 in the world. You
Mhm.
know, a few years ago he did very well in the big tournament that's coming up soon. It's called Roland Garros in France,
Mhm.
and that helped to stabilize him a little bit more. And now he's much less. But there was a time in his life and in his career when he said, I'm going to walk away from this because before I send my parents into a debt, before I make bigger problems for everyone,
Mhm.
I would rather leave this.
Mhm.
And it's a shame.
What do they do besides tennis if you are not good enough? Do you have any information about that?
Coach.
Ah,
Oops. No, it's we definitely do try to stay involved as much as we can. Obviously, yes, we go to the college in America. There are other ways of making enough money. You can find also to work a job and play tennis at the same time. There are leagues in France and in Germany where they pay you to play for them.
mhm.
And I think if even if you are not making enough money to support yourself financially as a professional, that you have played professional, it does give you lots of opportunities moving forward. You've made contacts on tour. You can others some choose to start businesses,
Mhm.
and also again I say it, but I think if you've reached the highest level of tennis, even if it's only maybe 250 in the world, you come from some sort of financial backing, I imagine. So you definitely find it maybe a different path to go in the profession. I'm not sure you might be homeless though, but we've heard stories of Diego Maradona blew all of his money in 1 year, and
Yeah.
now his kids are broke. So
Mhm. Okay, that's always possible. Yes. Uh, so, as a coach and as an agent, what would you suggest to somebody who's trying to follow your path, to do differently, or do differently than you did? What would
um,
be some business advice to people who want to go there?
to not be afraid.
Oh.
I it took me time to really take that step, even though it was something I felt I'd been doing for kind of a long time. I think in many ways they are sort of intertwined. As a professional involved in tennis, you're always asked by people, can you suggest a place, even if it's someone international talks to you, or you work with someone international for a week, and they say, oh, well, can you suggest a place in Germany because I live in Germany? And you say, oh, well, I know this guy in this place.
Mhm.
So it's something we kind of do as part of our job for a long time, but it's not something we really consider sort of taking on for ourselves.
Mhm.
And that was, for me, it was the biggest thing, was to step away from full-time employment in tennis and working a little bit now more what I choose,
Mhm.
and I get to spend a little bit more time around my house and doing things for myself. I like simple things. I like to be in the garden. I like to cook food. If I get an hour a day just to do these things, it's great, and it's definitely worth it. But this would never have happened if I didn't, if I wasn't brave enough to try. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
I think that stops a lot of people really going for it. Is that voice in your head, that doubt which says, will it not work? How long will it take? Should I work instead and then wait?
Mhm.
So I definitely say to follow it, to go for it, try, even if it doesn't work. You've tried, and maybe at another time it will work. Maybe it will surprise you, and it will work better than you ever thought.
Okay. Great. I think the same. So we're 5 minutes above our time. Let's wrap it. Doesn't matter. No, it was a fun talk, so I really enjoyed it. But let's wrap it slowly. So some final thoughts.
Yeah, it's great to have been involved in something for all of my life, to see how it's progressed through the years.
Mhm.
I've also seen how I've progressed myself personally, and seen now how I see, almost looking back on this time, I see it now differently than I saw it at the time. And obviously at the time I saw it differently than how I thought I would see it before. So it's good to, as myself, to be growing and seeing all of these different things change. I obviously, a lot of this is just how I see and how I perceive tennis. Obviously, other people will see and perceive it in a different way.
Mhm.
So, but for me personally, I would like to see it now go a little bit backwards to go forwards, to really rediscover that fun, to really rediscover that magic in tennis that, people who play it one time get hooked for their whole life,
Yeah, yeah. I know. I'm one of them.
See, no, it's great. It's great to see people who just like to come to tennis class just to get away from life. They're always smiling. They always try to do their best. That's what it's about. Even though it's a difficult sport on many different levels and for many different reasons, it's also one of the best sports in the world, and it's great to be a part of this. I can't imagine my life not having been a part of tennis. I wouldn't know who I was and where I was right now,
Yeah. Great. Thank you for a lovely talk. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for having me,
And have a pleasant evening.
You too. Brilliant. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.